What if I told you that you can go from taking photos like this to this in just a few simple steps using your iPhone? Sounds unbelievable? Well, it isn't, and I'm about to show you how. So what I'm gonna do as a challenge is I'm gonna teach you all of the features of the iPhone that are instantly going to level up your photography game and have you take consistently good photos time and time again in just under 10 minutes from now. I'll specifically talk about 3 secret iPhone camera features and how you can use them correctly to achieve the best results possible. And trust me when I say this, the last one is gonna blow your mind, so stick around for that. And to really show you the effects of all of this, I'm gonna be taking photos in 2 ways. The first way is gonna be the regular way that anybody would just take a photo without implementing any of the knowledge that I'm gonna teach you here. And then I'll take a second photo with implementing these features the correct way, so that at the very end, we can compare both sets of photos so that you can really see the power of these features when used the right way. Sound good? All right, let's hop right into it. Have you ever wondered how people take photos like this? This is called a long exposure photo. It's basically settings on the camera that purposefully take a photo so slowly that it causes all motion to blend together, creating this effect. Initially, it might seem like you need really expensive cameras and gear to achieve that kind of effect. Thankfully though, the iPhone is ahead of the curve on this one. You can achieve this long exposure effect in 2 simple steps. But the only thing you have to keep in mind is that you need some kind of movement in the frame. So you can't really take photos of something standing still, or else the effect will not take place. But first, let's take a photo the regular way. I've chosen to photograph traffic high up in Stockholm City, where I'll blend the motion of traffic, people, and potential trains in the shot. So what I'll do now is simply click the shutter to take a regular photo, the way any person would. There. Now that we have our regular photo, let's utilize the long exposure feature on the iPhone. All you gotta do is the following. Step 1, activate live photo. You do that by simply clicking the circle in the top right corner of your camera app. Once you've done that simple step, frame the shot to your liking and click the shutter. But wait, there's one thing you have to consider before doing this. See, with long exposure, every type of motion is being blended together to create this effect. But this also includes the shakiness and the movement of the camera. So in order for you to really achieve a proper long exposure effect, you have to make sure that the camera is very, very still. Otherwise, the entire photo is going to be blurry and unusable. Now you might think that you have very stable hands and you can just stand still and do it that way, but I wouldn't recommend it. Why take that risk? Instead, either place the iPhone on a stable surface when taking the photo, or use a tripod to really make sure the camera is still before taking your shot. Now we're ready. Nice. Step 2, open your Photos app and take a look at your photo. I know, there's a moment of confusion here, isn't there? The photo looks like any standard photo. There's no long exposure effect to be seen, right? Well, that's because we haven't told the iPhone how to read the photo yet. We've just told it to take a regular picture. What we have to do now is tell the iPhone to convert that live photo into a long exposure photo. To do this, simply click in the top left corner where it says live and select long exposure. After you do that, wait for the iPhone to do its magic. See that? To quickly explain what's going on, see, when you're taking a live photo, you're essentially taking a small bit of video with it. That's the very definition of live photo. You can see what I mean by clicking Edit on any live photo and selecting Live. See how your photo consists of a small video? What long exposure then does is that it blends together all that movement or all those frames to create an effect of motion blur. Pretty neat, huh? The next feature is going to be very beautiful, you see, because this effect is a popular effect that's used in movies and in photographs alike. What you're seeing here is a rich, creamy background blur effect. And that's something that almost always makes a photo look cinematic and absolutely gorgeous. Now there's an okay way to do it and there's a pro way to do it. But starting off, we're gonna do it the okay way. What I've chosen to take a picture of is an everyday situation where basically you just sit in a cafe or a restaurant taking a picture of your food or coffee. I activate portrait mode by simply choosing portrait mode from the camera app. I frame the shot and I click the shutter. That's it. We ended up with a pretty decent looking picture with a blurry background, right? Now let's get really cinematic. See, you might have heard of portrait mode in the past and you've probably used it. But did you know that you can actually alter the effect to your liking? Meaning that you can make that background blur even more intense or weaker, depending on what you like. To do this, press the F button up here to open up the controls. Next, drag the slider either up or down to create a stronger or weaker effect. By dragging it to the left, you're making the background blur much more prominent. See that? And by dragging it to the right, you're reducing the effect. Now let's try it out at maximum effect to show you the difference it makes. I'll drag the slider all the way to the left and take the same shot. Good. We'll take a proper look at these at the very end. There's just one thing you have to keep in mind when using portrait mode. See, the background blur is actually just an effect or a simulation, sort of like a filter that the iPhone uses. Meaning that if you push the filter a little too far, it can actually end up breaking the effect. Take a close look at the edges of the subject when using the maximum settings. Sometimes the effect breaks and you end up with strange results. To combat this, you have to move around a bit. Try various angles, stand further or closer away from the subject, adjust your shot until the effect looks normal. Sometimes you even have to change the intensity of the filter to fix the effect. If this does happen to you, just play around and see what helps. We got one more to cover. Are you ready? Sometimes when you go on vacation, you want to photograph your partner or a friend in front of a famous landmark. Then you come home and you realize that not all of that landmark could really fit into that frame. I mean, it could, but you would have to either sacrifice your partner or sacrifice the landmark in taking that photo. Thankfully though, with panorama mode, you don't have to sacrifice anyone ever again. See, what panorama does is it lets you capture a much wider range of the frame, a range that to the human eye would be impossible to catch. It does so by allowing you to essentially record a larger area and then it automatically puts it together into one photo. To do this, simply choose Panorama from the camera app and frame your shot. Make sure to plan the beginning and ending of your shot so that you don't capture anything unwanted in the frame. Take a look at what's on your left side and what's on your right side. Once you've planned your beginning, middle, and end, press and hold the shutter and simply move the camera from one direction to the other. And now look at the results. See what we end up with? Now, a lot of people might have heard of or used Panorama in the past, but there's one way to use Panorama that might come as a surprise to you. See, most people are going to use Panorama the way that it's intended, from side to side, to create a horizontal image. But you could also take a panoramic shot by going vertical. So by recording from bottom to top. So let's take another shot, but this time in a vertical position. Simply repeat the process, but move the camera up instead of side to side. This makes for some really cool effects. Panorama essentially bends reality by widening our field of view to make us see the impossible. It's quite incredible. Happy with the results? Great. Now let's head on home and compare the final result. All right, after a long day of fun, now it's time to sit down and compare the photos that we took. First, we got the long exposure photo taken, well, without the feature. It's pretty evident that we can't achieve the effect by simply taking a photo the way anybody would, right? But now that we implemented long exposure into our live photo, look at the difference. This is obviously not meant to be used for every single photo you take, but if you wake up one morning feeling extra creative, taking a long exposure photo might be the way to go. Next up, we got our portrait photo. Looking at the regular one, it looks regular, okay. I mean, it does look good, don't get me wrong, but it can be so much better. Look at the difference between a regular portrait mode photo and the enhanced portrait mode photo with the slider pulled all the way to the left. Look at that, as if taken straight out of a movie. Beautiful. Finally, we got the panorama photo. With the regular shot, we couldn't even fit what we wanted into the frame. See how most of it is cut off? But with panorama, we managed to change the rules of reality and fit absolutely everything into the frame. Now we can see our subject and the building in the background, horizontally as well as vertically. There's endless ways you can play around with these features. Try them out for yourself and tell us in the comments what you come up with. And if you found any of these tips to be useful, there's more. If you really want to elevate your photography skills, make sure to click the link below Good luck to you on your journey, and we hope to see you in the next video.